Hello, welcome to Quick Grade Educational Hub. Now today we are going to focus on how to answer research method question 1D. And so this is how they structure the question 1D. So when you look at the question, they are asking you to evaluate the interpretivist approach to sociological research. And normally, because it is 10 marks, they will ask you to give 2 arguments for the approach or the debate and 2 arguments against the approach or the debate. And then you write a conclusion. A conclusion is very important because examiners want to know your judgment on the issue that you are discussing or the debate. What do you think? So these are very important. But one thing that I want all the candidates, those who are writing sociology, to pay attention to is that in research method, this question that you see on the screen, they can reframe it in many different ways. If it is not the interpretivist, it could be positivist. They can even put these important sociological concepts: validity, reliability, representativeness, the issue of bias. They can even come from the perspective of the issues in sociology, the ethical issues, practical issues, theoretical issues. They can look at it from the sampling techniques. And so let me give you a typical example. They can reframe this question. Evaluate the view that validity is the most important in sociological research or social research. And so in this case, you are looking at validity. They can place reliability there. They can talk about any of the sampling technique. They can even ask you, evaluate the view that ethical issues are the most important in sociological research. You should know that there are a lot of ethical issues, but we also have practical and theoretical issues. So make sure that you are familiar with this concept. You know their strengths and limitations. If you don't know, they can just put any of these in there, and then once you don't have any idea, it means that you cannot answer. For example, if they ask you, evaluate the view that validity is the most important in sociological research. I mean, you can talk about how validity gives us a clear picture of what is happening in the real world. You can talk about how we are able to obtain detailed information from the interviewees or the participants, how interpretivists value, validity in sociological research. These are the things. If you want to, speak against this argument, you can look at it from the point of view of the positivists. Talk about maybe reliability is the most important. You talk about ethical issues being the most important. This is how you approach these questions. So you need to understand the various concepts so that whichever way they frame the question, you will know how to answer. Now, there is a specimen answer or a model answer here, which I want you to pay attention to. I'm not going to read this model answer, but I'm going to identify 1 or 2 errors, and then look at the examiner comment and then the common errors that candidates normally commit. So I will urge you that when you are watching this video, make sure that you can pause the video to read the specimen answer so that you know what to do when you are answering the research method question 1D. Now, if you look at this specimen or this model answer here, the candidate was able to explain, the first reason very well. The second paragraph was well explained. If you look at the third paragraph, it's the same thing, but there's a problem with the fourth paragraph and then the conclusion. That is why the candidates couldn't score all the 10 marks. Now, before I come to talk about these 2 problems, please take note. There are different formats that you can use to write or answer this question. You can start with the for and then the against. What I mean is that you can talk about your 2 arguments for the approach or the debate, and then you talk about your 2 arguments against the debate. But you should be able to use the transitional words when you are writing. However, furthermore, you have to be able to use these things for the examiner to know that, in fact, the candidate is evaluating. Once you use the word however, they will know that you're coming to evaluate. So take note of that. You can also use this approach, the for against approach. So you state your argument for the debate, and then you will state 1 argument against the debate. You come and talk about your second argument for the debate, and then your second argument against the debate. You can use this formula too. Okay. So this is what you should know. But let's come back to the question. Look at the 4th paragraph here, where I'm pointing the arrow. Look at the 4th paragraph. The candidate was able to give a valid reason, but the candidate was not able to explain in detail, and that is where you are losing marks. Also, if you come to the concluding chapter, you have to make a judgment. When you make a judgment, you can support your judgment, with some of the reasons that you discuss in your argument, or you can give a new reason to support what your judgment. You cannot tell us that the interpretivist approach is useful in assessing the thoughts and feelings that drive individuals' behavior, and end there. You need to support this conclusion with some of the points that you discuss in the essay or in your argument. That gives you the full mark. That is why you realize that the candidate lost 2 marks. Let's look at the examiner's comment. So you look at what the examiner said. And I'm going to highlight something here. If you look at it, the format that I said, say the answer uses a 4 against structure. So you can use any of the structure, either 4 against structure or 4 against structure. It is acceptable. But look at where the candidate lost the 2 marks. It said paragraph 4, while using relevant concepts, could be more developed. So it means that this paragraph here was not developed by the candidate, hence the candidate lost marks here. If you come to the next thing, say in addition, while making a judgment in the conclusion, it could have been justified by reference to some of the arguments outlined in the answer. That is why I made mention that once you are making a judgment in the concluding section, you can use the point that you discuss in your essay to back your judgment here, or you can even use a new point that you think, if you think you have a new point, you can use it to back your argument. So these are the things that you need to avoid. Now, if you come to the common mistakes, and this is where a lot of students are victims to these mistakes. Writing a long introduction, which is unnecessary. They are telling you that it is very unnecessary, and that is very true. Introduction is not going to give you any marks. Your introduction must be brief and precise. Not organizing arguments into separate paragraphs. Instead, writing one long paragraph that includes numerous points which overlap or blur into one another. So you have to be able to structure your argument in different paragraphs. Paragraphing is very important when you are answering essay type questions in sociology. So take note of that. Okay, not concluding with a reasoned judgment. Your conclusion, there should always be a judgment. We need to know what you think about the debate. Okay, and learn to also develop your point. Explain the why, the how. Let the examiner know that this is what you are trying to say. It is very important. So I will urge all of you that if you are watching this video, try to pause it to read through the specimen answer, and then please make sure that under research method you understand all the concepts. Do not leave any concept out. The question that you see here, they can reframe it in different ways. I can even ask you, evaluate the view that triangulation is the best approach to sociological research. In this case, you have to know the strength and limitations of triangulation. So take note. Look at the methods in the stages of research design. Take note of all the things there. The pilot study, know their strengths and limitations. For each sampling technique, know their strengths and limitations. Know the various ethical issues, practical issues, and the theoretical issues. The research methods, know whether it is quantitative or qualitative. Know their strengths and limitations, because they can put any of them there, and then you have to use these strengths and limitations to argue your point out. And so I will end the video here. My next video, I'm going to look at how to answer identity questions, identity, family, education, crime, how to, especially the 14-mark question, how to answer it. I'll tackle that in my next video. Having said that, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and then you also share our video for others to get access to the video. I'll see you in my next video.